Welcome to Turnpike Sports. I'm Dave Weischadle, and as always, I'm joined by my producer and co-host, Doug Weischadle. Doug, I'm making a mental note to myself. I'm never going to place a prop bet on Antonio Brown ever again. I don't care where he ends up.
Unless it's a first-half prop bet, because obviously he waited until the third quarter to leave that game, which was very bizarre, but I think everyone's kind of used to his actions mostly off the field, not on the field. That was totally unexpected.
The Jets-Buccaneers game had a weird vibe to it. I mean, the Jets were winning all the way through the game, and then some bizarre 4th and 2 quarterback sneak thing where I'm still trying to figure out who called that, or was it an option by Zach Wilson, or what was going on?
The coaching staff was falling on their sword, saying that they didn't communicate to Zach Wilson clear enough that do not do the quarterback sneak. But again, you know what? It's not as much as that for me. It was afterwards, even though they gave Brady all that time, that zone defense just blew it at the end there, and that's what caused that touchdown. If they didn't play zone, they weren't playing zone through the entire game. They put that stupid zone prevent defense in, and it gave up that corner route to that receiver, and it was just their kids are too young in the backfield, the defensive backfield, to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, this was emblematic of what I'm seeing in the NFL this year. I mean, look, I'm kind of an old-school football kind of guy. I would have kicked the field goal in the Jets game, but apparently NFL doesn't like field goals anymore, and no one likes taking points. They all want to go for the 4th and 2 and 4th and 3. Everyone's into the analytics, which is fine. It's a tool. It's in your toolbox. You can refer to analytics, but don't let it rule your existence on the football field.
Given the Jets this season with their field goal problems, no guarantee that would have gone through either.
Sure. Well, I guess you're right, but I guess with the coaching staff thought that too. But what a great Sunday it was. Oh, what the Bengals Chiefs game was fantastic.
One of the most high scoring games I've seen all season.
Wow. And I think I took that for my picks last week for the thing. I think they hit the I went with the over 49.5 points, and boy, did they blow.
I think it was 72 points or something like that. I don't even know.
So. I don't even know. Well, we got a big show for you. We got Beatin The House. We got Week 18 NFL picks. Doesn't that sound weird? Week 18 NFL picks.
You know what? It probably sounded just as weird when we said Week 17 last year.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Last week, you mean?
Well, I'm talking about before it became.
Are you guys doing that joke now that, I'll see you next year?
No. Remember how it sounded weird when you had 17 weeks after having 16 weeks?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had Week 17 for a while. Now we have Week 18. They got to. I don't like this. 17 games. Schedule.
I like it. More football is always good.
I don't mind more football. I liked it when we had a 500 team.
Yeah, I guess there won't be any.
There's no such thing as a 500 team right now. Either 9-8 or 8-9.
Well, if someone gets a tie, you can have a.
Statistically,
it
it's not a tie.
Not, yeah,
it's not 8-8.
Well, we also have a book report coming up, and I'm going to be talking with Mark Saxon from Better Collective, NYOnlineGambling.com, and USBets.com. We're going to be talking Baseball Hall of Fame and New York sports betting. How about that? So
it's a great combination.
Great combination. Today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to Drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with Drizzly.com.
Exit 1.
Well, seeing how this is the first show of 2022, I thought we'd look back at 2021 a little bit. the sports betting industry in the United States grew.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. I think it's going to grow again in 2022.
I think it's got another full year's worth of growth ahead of itself. I don't know if we're going to hit 50 states by the end of 2022.
I keep asking people, just by the law of statistics, this has got to slow down. The growth has to slow down at one point, but I really don't see it yet.
I think it's going to plateau in certain. I think in certain areas it's going to plateau. I mean, in terms of bet types, betting options. Again, half the every time we talk to different states, we start seeing that some don't have single game parlay yet. Some do have single game parlays. Parlay betting must be. It's incredible because I've never seen parlay betting so at the forefront of betting industry. It's the U.S. is crazy about parlays.
Well, let me tell you something. I think there's an element of growth in every state. There's certain states have limitations on how you place bets. Some states have limitations on how you sign up for sports books and things like that. So I think we're going to see growth in the individual states. I think new things are going to happen in the states that already have sports betting. But, there's going to be a lot of states that jump into the sports betting market who haven't had sports betting before. So we'll see that.
We're seeing new benchmarks being set. We had Jersey with 3 straight billion-dollar months. We had Nevada joining the billion-dollar club.
Yes. Like I said, my big thing that I'm looking for is how does New York mobile sports betting affect New Jersey?
Honestly, I'm seeing all these things about how it's going to cut into New Jersey. I don't know if it will because you've got
a great article written by Mark Saxon on NY Online Gambling says, you know what? Maybe it won't be as bad for New Jersey as people might think.
I don't know. I think what you're going to see with the New York sports betting market is maybe the creation of a New Jersey junket market.
Okay.
Taking New York players to New Jersey.
Well, look.
I think you're going to see that with New York to Pennsylvania, too.
The tax rate in New York is incredibly high. I mean, it's very restrictive on how much money and how many promotions sports betting entities in New York can use and still make a profit. So, it's like 51%, which is crazy.
But again, I mean, it works in New Hampshire. Different type of state altogether. It's a horrible comparison. Yes, I know that. But we also have Arkansas now looking at the 51% rule, too. They actually are getting that passed through and everything. So, maybe it's something that kind of makes sense for certain states. And I think New York might make sense because it's just the sheer population.
Well, look, New York can get away with it because it's such a huge market, number one. Number two, it's such a huge media market. So people want to go there. And, if you want to do your thing in New York, you got to pay the price. So 51% tax rate, I guess, is the price. And it looks like people are, the sportsbook operators are willing to pay it. There's already 9 already got approval.
Yeah,
so,
it's a very fertile market
now,
for sports betting.
Like I said, how they make their money there,
it's going to be different.
I don't know how that's going to affect the promotions, what perks they're going to give to their what they can afford to give to their customers. That's one of the reasons why they're thinking maybe New Jersey isn't going to go down the drain with mobile sports betting in New York starting. So,
like I said, Jersey junkets.
Jersey junkets.
But again, you're looking at, look at last year compared to this year. 2020, there were 20 sports gambling jurisdictions, and they had a total handle of $21.5 billion. Jersey had $6 billion of that. Now, in 2021, we've got 30 states and Washington, D.C. are all operating sports betting jurisdictions. There's a couple other states like Ohio and a few others that have not.
They've passed it. They're not functioning active right now.
We're over $40 billion in terms of handle.
Well, look,
Jersey's on the verge of being the first, and by the time this airs, we may have the Jersey numbers. I don't think so. Second week in January usually is when they come out. Jersey should be the first state to have a $10 billion year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be incredible. Like I said, let's see what happens when New York jumps into the mobile market. But comparing 2020 to 2021 is kind of tough because 2020, not a lot of sports were being played. So, you had more things to bet on in 2021. So,
any predictions on how many states are going to have it by the end of the year? We've got 30 plus DC,
but technically
33 plus DC.
33 in one jurisdiction,
right.
Washington, D.C.
We actually may see another one. I know Puerto Rico's moving forward with some stuff.
Okay.
That's another jurisdiction.
That's a U.S. territory,
yes.
Okay.
But I'm thinking maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we see 40.
Yeah, we might hit 40.
40 is doable. 45, I don't know. I think 40 might be
I'm trying to think after
plateau.
Ohio signed it last week, what's the next state to get it? I'm trying to think of which state would get it.
Well, Minnesota's supposedly going to make a push.
Sure.
You got Florida still is in court.
Yeah, they're.
We don't know what's going to happen
I
there
guess
yet.
Florida would be the furthest along to get sports betting. They kind of
can't.
had it for 2 weeks and then they stopped it.
Well, they again, it depends on what the court says for them.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be tied up for a long, long time.
Well, all I know is Massachusetts will not have it this year.
No, maybe Texas.
Texas doesn't even have casinos.
They're starting to warm up to the idea. Jerry Jones over there is starting to talk a lot about sports betting. Mm-hmm. So you might see something. But again, Minnesota's is starting about doing a push. You still got Maine out there with a sports betting bill.
Maine, huh?
How about that one? Oof. Everybody but little old Massachusetts and New England may have sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, California is getting close. There's a ballot initiative. We'll see what happens there.
California will be a game changer, I think. California is like, how New Jersey's worried about New York. I think Nevada would be worried about California.
I think Nevada should still worry about Arizona.
Well, yeah, of course, Arizona.
Although I saw a really interesting stat. Nevada has the most retail sports books in the country.
Sure.
And that's why they're not too worried about that mobile registration thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense. But Arizona is going to be a big market mover.
Huge, yeah.
You may see some of those other states too. Like New Mexico may have a good market there. You never know. Washington State is just starting up. That's another big state there.
Well, we'll see.
So, we'll see what happens in 2022.
Exit 2.
Over in Japan, we're going to see a lot more kids happier going to high school pretty soon.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, we have the opening of Japan's first gaming high school.
Oh, wow. Just
oddly enough,
just all gaming, huh?
It's titled eSports High.
eSports High. All right.
It's being built in Tokyo, and it is a mobile game facility that is a high school just focused on gaming. It's supported by
let me ask you
NTT Esports and also the pro soccer team Tokyo Verdy.
Well, when you say high school, I mean, will it have the math class, biology, history kind of things with esports, or it's just esports?
This is what I found out doing when I came across this story. I started researching it a little bit more. I found out in Japan, high school is not part of the compulsory education system.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to go to high school.
But it's a pretty good idea if you do.
You have to go to grade school.
Okay.
And what they have that's very common over there are high schools with a trade school.
Like a VOTEC kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, but they don't have a set curriculum that they have to do. They can make their own curriculum.
I am shocked.
And they are now going to be doing an esports high school where teachers will conduct lessons on popular games in first-person shooters, third-person shooters, real-time strategy, MOBA categories. The facility is also going to have a care training space where students will learn how to properly take care of their bodies and their minds. This is just strictly
seems
gaming.
Weird. Wow, this seems weird.
It's basically a trade school for gamers.
I guess so. Yeah, it's like a VOTEC for gamers.
And they have said that they know, given the fact that esports is a very competitive industry right now, they're not actually saying you're going to be a professional gamer when you graduate. they actually have said in its chart of possible lines of work for graduates, competitive pro gamer is just one of the many possibilities. They have streamer, game developer, virtual YouTuber, game journalist, which is an interesting one because there's always going to need a need for reporters, programmer, an eSports commentator, and 3D CG designers.
But
so
don't
every
you need,
aspect of the eSports
don't
industry.
You need an advanced degree with, developer and designer and things like that?
Well, you can still go to those schools to do that. You can go to
right.
college and do that.
See, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that it's not compulsory high school.
I was shocked when I saw that too, but then again, that's
They'll probably make more money doing esports.
Yeah, and again, they don't have to turn out to be professional gamers. They're setting them up to be
something in the
esports industry
universe kind of thing. Yeah.
So going to be interesting to see if that actually catches on and see if anybody else starts mimicking that or doing a copycat of that, especially here in the United States. I would assume you can't do that.
You're not going to replace this.
It'd be the Votech.
It'd
be the Votech angle.
Exit 3.
How would you like to own a team by purchasing an NFT? A sports team.
Okay, this is where we're going with NFTs now?
This story is going to focus on real estate executive and sports investor Albert Tillis.
All right.
Tillis he started out as a real estate guy, and he started investing in sports around 2017. And he now has ownership interest in the Liga MX, which is the Mexican Soccer League.
Sure.
The Welsh team Swansea City AFC, and the Auckland basketball team, the New Zealand Breakers.
Okay.
So he was in the market to purchase another team. So he looked at Latin America, and he did some research on it. It was kind of interesting with the research. The soccer audience in the United States follows Latin American soccer more than Premier League, more than the La Liga League from Spain.
See, that's interesting because, here in New Jersey and, we have an office in Boston, they really follow the European leagues. Especially in Boston.
There's mostly an Irish population.
Irish population. Well, there's a big Irish population in the area of New Jersey where we live. So I see a lot of people following, the Premier League and the European leagues.
Well, again, there is a huge population Puerto Ricans of Latin American descent in the United States, and they don't follow those. They follow the Mexican League. They follow the Latin American soccer. And personally, I don't follow soccer. So I have to take this word for these stats in here.
I see what people are watching, but I'm not actually watching the soccer.
So he went to
They love betting on soccer, though.
He went to the owners of Club Nexaca. Nexaca.
Okay.
And got them to commit to sell 50% of the team to him.
Good.
Now, his investment group featured Eva Longoria, Olympic medalist Bodie Miller, Justin Verlander, the pitcher, NBA players Victor Oladipo, Richard Hamilton, and Sean Marion.
Okay.
So kind of big names.
Oh, no, big names, yeah.
And they got together. They purchased 50% of this team. And a week after they bought that team, they announced an NFT auction. And the NFT they were selling unlocked 1% ownership of this team.
See, that's pretty cool.
That is actually
I like that.
The best use of an NFT I
love that promotion. I hope, they look at that and, like Green Bay. They have no one owner. We actually know an owner of the Green Bay Packers. He actually bought a share of it. Yeah. He's a bartender at a local bar here in New Jersey. So we can always say we know one of the owners of the Packers. But that's a great idea.
Well, what they did was they did an auction online at the site OpenSea, which is a NFT crypto platform.
Okay.
Bidders were vetted, and they just wanted serious investors only. And the winning bidder received an irrevocable percentage of the team. But the interesting thing about this, he can sell that NFT.
Nice.
But he has to give a percentage to the team itself of any sale. Sure. He's got no voting rights. So it's basically whatever.
Did they tell you what the bid was?
No, it was not disclosed.
Oh, okay.
So the 1% owner paid a certain amount of money, And really, this was generated for publicity. This was done all for publicity because it was a smaller team in the league, and Tillis is hoping that doing something like this in the crypto area, the NFT area, would actually expose other people to the soccer.
No,
not just to the team itself.
Let me tell you something.
That's one thing, but to the Latin American soccer as well.
It's a brilliant move. I love it.
I think it was probably one of the best uses of NFTs I've seen all year.
Yeah, they ought to start doing something. What, the USFL is starting up again. Maybe they should do something like that.
Somebody's going to look at doing something like that because that's a crazy idea and it worked.
It's great.
Exit 4.
We have our first college award that is going to also include a name, image, likeness deal.
So if a collegiate athlete wins this award, what comes along with the award is
an NIL
deal. Name, image, and likeness deal.
Right.
That's okay.
Now this is the Joe Moore Award for offensive linemen. Foundation for Teamwork, and the award honors the most outstanding offensive line unit in college football. It's an entire line.
So the entire line would get the NIL.
This is the first postseason college award program to launch an NIL program for recipients. And the University of Michigan offensive line won the award.
Well, they're really great this year.
It
was the strength of their team, I think.
They will have a name, image, and likeness deal for customized design artwork and T-shirts. They will get 100% of the net T-shirt sales. The gross will also have a percentage going to charities.
Oh, that's good.
The members of the offensive line, have their money coming in. They will also allow the gross a percentage of the gross to go to certain charities set up by the Foundation for Teamwork, which issues the award. And the Foundation for Teamwork will also match each athlete's gift up to $10,000.
Great.
So if you want to take a look at these, they're up on the company's website. It's done with the digital on-demand processor Make Your Move. If you go to GoMYM, Make Your Move, GoMYM.com/collections/Joe Moore Award with dashes there. You'll see the shirts there starting at $20 each.
Great.
Now, I've actually never heard of this either. I mean, we just talked about the NFT sale. I've never heard of actually tying an NIL deal into a college award. I wonder if the major awards like Heisman and...
Well, look, NIL deals weren't around last year, so I think you're going to see a lot more NIL deals attached to these collegiate awards. And like you said, the Heisman, maybe.
I really thought we would have seen the NCAA jump all over NIL and do some of these things. But maybe the individual schools can do them. I don't know how the NCAA works with NIL deals in terms of awards and all that.
Well, this is new territory to a lot of people. So
I think it's new territory for the NCAA, too.
It's going to work itself out. And today's trip down the Turnpike was brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
And as always, you can get in touch with Turnpike Sports by calling or texting us at 609-512-5910. That's 609-512-5910. At Turnpike Sports is the show's handle on Facebook and Twitter. At Turnpike Sports Radio is our handle on Instagram. And as always, our email address is info@turnpikesportsradio.com. And don't forget, you can listen to the show via Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, radio.com mobile app, as well as Stitcher and YouTube. You can also watch us on your smart TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Head on over to turnpikesports.net. You'll be able to watch our video channel there.
Well, we got a great show coming up. We got a Beatin The House segment. We got a Week 18 NFL picks, and then we also have a book report. And I'm talking with Mark Saxon after this. He's from Better Collective, NYOnlineGambling.com, and USBets.com. We're going to be talking Baseball Hall of Fame and also New York sports betting. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. I am Dave Weischadle. News is coming out of the sports betting world and from the sports world itself, especially Major League Baseball. And I think we have the perfect guest to talk about this. He just started with Better Collective and USBets.com to write about the sports betting industry, but he has been a sports writer for decades. For the first time on the show, Mark Saxon is on the line. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Guys, what's going on? It's good to be with you, and looking forward to delving into some of the topics in the betting world, which I'm sort of getting my head around as I get started here.
No, it's great to have you on, and like I said, it's your first time on the show, so welcome. And but you've been a sports writer for years. Tell us about your background and what sports you've covered.
So no bells or anything for first time on the show, or like
we're going to
have it in later.
We're going to put in horns and things like that, sound effects later. That's post-production.
Okay, great. I'll make sure and believe you on that.
There you go.
So yeah, I came at it, I guess, what would I call it? The mainstream sports journalism world. Started out in newspapers, like a lot of people, and then in 1998, I started covering Major League Baseball. And that was the bulk of my career. Mostly on the West Coast. I worked at a couple newspapers out there. I worked at ESPN starting in 2009. I was there 9 years, I think. And then I went to The Athletic and covered the St. Louis Cardinals, and that was my last stop. But, you know, I just always sort of was watching what was happening in the gambling world, sort of behind the scenes. Super intrigued by it, even when I was, you know, at all the places I just mentioned. Because I just kind of grew up with that. You know, I knew how to read a line when I was about 7 or 8 years old. You know, my dad would take me to Fairmount Park here across the river in St. Louis, and I learned to read a daily racing form at about the same age. So when the Better Collective opportunity came up, I really jumped at it because it's an industry I'm really fascinated with right now.
Well, as you said, you've covered the MLB extensively over the years. I guess the big story in the MLB right now is the lockout. I mean, it certainly affects sports fans and sports bettors. I mean, in this area, I know Mets fans are just don't even want to hear about lockout, and they want to start the season tomorrow with their new coach and their new pitchers and everything like that. But in your opinion, do you think this lockout will last long? I mean, there's so much money to be made on both sides of the conflict here. Do you think this is going to drag on into the season?
Yeah, well, you know that both sides know that, of course, and they know what's at stake in terms of baseball's at a bit of a tenuous situation right now when you compare it with other sports, and we know all the reasons, right? The pace of the game, all these things. But what's funny, like on a sports gambling angle, to me anyway, with baseball is, you know, in some ways, it's kind of the perfect sport for in-game wagering.
Oh, it's great.
Because it is right, and it is slow, so it's very easy to have enough time to say, okay, you know, even on this next pitch, will it be a strike? Will it be a ball? Will it be a hit? Will it be a, you know, to what extent you can do that? Whereas in the NBA, good luck trying to get that in before the guy drives to the basket, right?
That or hockey is terrible for in-play betting.
Right. Yeah. And so there's a real golden opportunity to kind of jump in along with the other sports, and I'm sure they'd like to do that. But there's this problem, and that is that these two sides don't get along very well. And I do think the players probably, from their perspective, they've lost the last two CBAs. I think that's pretty clear. And they do want to push for some things. And I think what they really want to push for is accelerating the service time clock so that maybe after 2 years you get to arbitration, and maybe after 5 years you get to free agency. That makes a huge difference. Teams are more willing to give big contracts to 20-something players than they are to 30-something players. So all those things are enormously important. I just really hope that that it doesn't get so heated that they back off and miss that first deadline of the first spring training report dates, and then you get another deadline, the first spring training games. I really hope we're not pushing all those deadlines and then maybe bumping up to an opening day that can't happen on time. I'm not optimistic just based on, the characters I know who are kind of at the top of this thing right now.
Now, sticking with the MLB, one of the coolest things that I read was you're a voter for the MLB Hall of Fame. I mean, for me, that's just incredible. It's such the coolest thing that I love talking to the voters for the Hall of Fame. And I always want to ask a sports writer, so forgive me if this is a dumb question, but how does one get to be a voter for the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I wish I could tell you it's from, being so brilliant and, writing such great
You could tell me
stories.
that. I wouldn't know.
It's really not. It's kind of like, I think it was Woody Allen who said 75% of success in life is just showing up. All you got to do is write for a certain number of years at a, reputable place and have what you really need to do is have a Baseball Writers Association of America card for 10 years, and then you qualify for voting. And I do still have an active card because I was writing about baseball this calendar year even. But, and then what happens is you retain it for another 10 years after you stop writing about baseball on a daily basis. So it's really a system built, just to have people who kind of have eyes on the game or around the game or talking to people in the game. But the interesting thing about voting, and I've seen this tremendously change in just my time, whatever it is, 23 years covering the game, and that is, it's really almost entirely, statistical based now, looking at the most deserving people with a little bit of, character clause sprinkled in, because you do have that part is very clear in the voting. You do have to look at a player's character, however you define that. But generally, it's really, we're all about isolating the very best players and trying to pick those guys. And of course, there are complicating factors. There's what substances were they using now that you have to look at, especially for a certain era. So it is a really cool process. It's a fun process, but in the era of social media, it can also be a little bit damaging because everybody comes at you.
Yeah. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, I want to congratulate my father and all the other Brooklyn Dodger fans with Gil Hodges finally getting into the Hall. That's one of those guys, you hear his name, you think he was already in there, but he wasn't. But for followers of the Hall of Fame, and, I know overseas books, actually, you can place bets on who's going to get into the Hall of Fame. What should they be looking for with regard to people, the prospects for the Hall of Fame? Is there a lock in this class to get into the Hall?
Well, I don't know this particular class. You would normally see a David Ortiz and an Alex Rodriguez first time on the ballot, but
Sure.
a lot of guys have trouble getting in first time, especially when they've been linked through reports in this case, or in Alex Rodriguez's case, to more than reports, to testing, when they've been linked to PEDs. So I don't think either of those guys will get in on the first ballot. The guy who was trending in a very positive direction was Scott Rowland. I think he's got a pretty good shot. But there are pretty good Hall of Fame ballot trackers now. A fella named Ryan Thibodeau runs one on Twitter. And I think like savvy bettors, if you were going to, really research that, there's a lot of resources out there now. And it's really, you can kind of do it just based on trends. So if Scott Rowland, I don't have these numbers off the top of my head, but if 5 years ago he was getting 45% of the vote and now he's at 72, that certainly looks like he's going to get that 75% threshold. So keep an eye on guys like that. It's guys who are sort of gaining momentum. And Scott Rowland is one of those guys who really benefits from analytics and defensive analytics specifically, because I don't think that his offensive numbers alone get him in. but the defense might. So I guess the reason I'm bringing up Scott Rowland is I've always been on the fence about Scott Rowland. I voted for him last year for the first time. This year I did not vote for him just because I reevaluated it. But he's kind of right on that border for me.
You know, I'm hearing his name a lot. I told you I'm in New Jersey, so I get New York media and Philadelphia media outlets, and both cities are talking about the players that played in their city with the potential to get into the Hall, and Rowland was a Philadelphia Philly. The Philadelphia outlet actually called Jonathan Papelbon a former Philadelphia Philly, and I really don't associate him with the Phillies, but it's very interesting.
You don't want to.
Yeah, I know. No, it's. I think we caught him at the tail end of his craziness. But you know, as an interviewer, I'm always trying to find a transition from one subject to another. So I was trying to think of a way to transition from the Hall of Fame to sports betting, and the only way I can think of was Pete Rose. and I know Better Collective has a great podcast called Gamble On, and Pete Rose was a guest on Gamble On. And given,
I gotta listen to that one.
Oh yeah,
so that was Doug and John.
Yes. Oh, they had Pete Rose on a couple of weeks ago. So, I'm curious. Given baseball's acceptance of sports betting and the deals that they're making, do you see a day when Pete Rose will get into the Hall of Fame, or is that a bridge too far, or will someone in the veterans division of the voting say, hey, maybe Shoeless Joe should get in because all of a sudden now we're accepting of sports betting?
Boy, it's hard to predict that. I don't think it'll happen with sort of the current management group at MLB. It certainly wasn't going to happen under Bud Selig, right? Mm-hmm. And I have been around Rob Manfred several times. I feel like about, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, this was a hotter topic. He would be asked about that a lot. And there was a brief moment where he seemed to, when he first came in, where he seemed to have a thaw. And he was at least allowing Pete Rose to commission to get his ban lifted. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, he elected not to do that. And I think he'll stick to his guns. But I guess the short answer would be sure, if a different commissioner comes in, it's possible. But I think the reason both of those guys, Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose, are viewed differently than guys who just sort of cheated is that, that's so fundamental to the integrity of the game, not gambling on games. And when you're a baseball writer, the first day you ever do it, you walk into a clubhouse, the rules are posted right there on the wall, and I think 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Japanese. So they're pretty staunch about that one. And I don't know. I don't think in my lifetime, I don't know how old you are, whether it'll happen in your lifetime, but I'm not expecting it anytime soon.
You mentioned that you have a lot of contact with the MLB. Are you surprised of how far they've come in their change of policies and attitudes when it comes to sports betting? I mean, I remember a couple years ago living in New Jersey, that was the case that was fighting to allow sports betting across the country. And their position was the most evil thing you can do is place a bet on one of our games. But it looks like, you look at the billboards in the stadiums are all DraftKings and FanDuel and Caesars and things like that. So are you surprised, covering the MLB as long as you have, as maybe they're a bit of an acceptance towards sports betting?
Yeah, I have been a little bit surprised. And the Cardinals are the same way. I live here in St. Louis, mm-hmm. as I mentioned, and this has been a really pretty squeaky clean organization for many years. The notion when I was a kid of the Cardinals sort of endorsing sports gambling would have been absolutely unheard of in this region. It's a more socially kind of conservative region, a more religious area, I guess, than some other areas of the country. But look, it's kind of mirrors how quickly society has completely flipped on the issue, right? And and it's similar. Once the Supreme Court cleared the hurdles, so now what you've got, the Cardinals are actually frustrated with the state of Missouri and how slowly it's happening here, because a lot of their fans can go across the river to Illinois and make a bet, any minute, as soon as they get going, and they want a piece of that revenue like all these other teams, right? they're always looking for that, next stream of revenue. And one of the things I think that's going to be difficult is to get the media rights that teams have been getting, the huge TV contracts, because we've seen what's happening kind of in the TV world with cord cutting. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to get the revenues from TV that they got. And so I think they're looking for new streams. And what's the old expression in journalism? Follow the money, right? Yep. So everybody, all these teams are lining up to get their share, I think.
Now, you just started writing for Better Collective, concentrating on the sports betting industry. How big of a transition is that for you? I mean, are you talking with the same contacts at the league, and do you think they'll be as open to you when they know you're writing about sports betting instead of the actual sport itself?
Yeah, so thus far I started last week, and the source, to answer that question, the sources are completely different, right? I mean, I'm talking to, at this point, lobbyists and PR agencies and politicians. And, so it's still sort of a lot of this stuff is still in the kind of the legislative stages. Oh, and also, of course, people who work at the operators, casinos and other mobile sports betting, all these companies that are sort of doing this stuff. It is different, but and I think eventually, when I start talking to people in the league, I think they will actually be open to it. Like we referenced earlier, the CBA. Mm-hmm. I wonder whether the emergence of legalized sports gambling will cause a few changes in the CBA. One thing you wonder about is players, whether they might want a little more security. If people are betting on one pitch and potentially losing a lot of money on one pitch in the heat of the moment, they could get frustrated, right, at the stadium. So I think that could be an issue in the CBA, and that's something I'll be exploring at some point. I wonder what closers think about, in-game, wagering, because those are the guys who look really bad. So all that stuff is really in play. And it's why I think I'm so excited for this job. There's just so much to write about with such a new kind of booming trend in our society. It's really an exciting time for all of us.
Over the past couple of months, I interviewed the vice president of gaming for NASCAR and PGA, and these are positions that didn't even exist a couple of years ago. Do you think that in the near future we're going to see that, like for the MLB, an executive position dealing with gaming and gambling? And do you think other leagues will start having those positions at their executive levels?
Oh, absolutely. And I'd be shocked if, that's not happening right now. If they're not surveying sort of the industry and figuring out how they need to position themselves and, maybe having a very powerful, executive running that. Rob Manfred, say what you will about him, he is absolutely pragmatic about everything. And he's going to jump in, with 2 feet into the gambling trend because, look, who pays his salary? It's the owners, right? And again, I think they're all looking for these, robust and bankable revenue streams. I think they're all worried about the media revenue, like I kind of, mentioned earlier. Look, we don't live in a world where, it's not all about television and radio anymore or newspapers. It's about the internet and it's about, people getting information elsewhere. So, if they're not already all over that, there's something seriously wrong at the top. And I'd be surprised if that were the case.
Now, we spoke about the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, which is in New York, and that is one of the markets that you'll be reporting on for Better Collective. Mobile sports betting is coming to New York, and that's one of the big stories that's happening in the sports betting industry. I know living here in New Jersey, that's striking fear in a lot of hearts, and especially the gambling institutions in the Garden State. But you recently wrote an article on nyonlinegambling.com talking about the high tax rate for sports betting operators in New York and how that could possibly drive business to New Jersey, which is just wonderful to hear for a lot of people in New Jersey who's in the sports betting industry down in that state. What is your take on the sports betting industry in New York, and what impact do you think it'll have not only locally but nationally?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, people say, well, if these taxes were so high, why are all these people trying to get into New York, right, into that market? And I think the answer to that is kind of obvious when you think it through, and that is New York is kind of it's in a lot of ways, it's, still the media capital of the United States. It's a huge population. You kind of got to get in there to have a real national footprint. And of course, even though their margins are small with such a high tax rate, they're banking on volume and also just the prestige of being in the New York market, making that, if you're eventually going to try to get into California, and you're trying to convince legislators out there that you're one of the big boys, being in New York certainly helps. So I think they're going to try. But yeah, for the individual gambler, with a 51% tax rate on mobile betting in New York, and I think it's 14.25% in New Jersey, I think it's going to be challenging for the New York books to offer the promotions that New Jersey can, or even Pennsylvania, even though they have a relatively high 36% rate. I think it'll be hard for them to offer the promotions. And so what you might see is the big fish, the people laying the big money are still going to go across the bridge or the tunnel and come visit you guys. And, you'll see them, that the traffic on the bridges and tunnels, I don't think it's going to get any better for a while.
By the way, they call it the George Washington Casino. I'm not joking. That's what everyone calls it. But do you think that the potential for that happening, I mean, New Jersey actually still maintaining a lot of New York customers, is that enough incentive for New York lawmakers to consider, maybe we should change this tax rate?
I wonder about that in the long run. And I spoke with Bill Pasquarello III, who's a very kind of powerful and connected lobbyist from New Jersey.
He's a great interview, too. Always the best quotes.
He's terrific, isn't he?
I
really enjoyed that conversation. But what he was saying about 25% of New Jersey's online handle is from New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that's going to change. We'll have to see. I think the novelty of being able to not go across will probably be good enough for people at first, and also to avoid that hassle, of course. But it still is going to happen, I think, to some extent. And New Jersey has the advantage of having been up and running longer. Some of the amenities are maybe more set up. One of the cool things, and I wrote about this yesterday, eventually I think they will have kiosks around in various places at Madison Square Garden, Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, I don't know, Arthur Ashe. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like too. People can just walk up to a terminal and make their bets that way. So there's going to be a lot of options. We'll have to see how it pans out, but I think it's still an interesting question with that high a tax rate.
Now, you mentioned that in another article you wrote for nyonlinegambling.com. Mobile sports betting in New York hasn't even started yet. Now there's a bill to put kiosks in stadiums, horse tracks, and OTBs. With regard to the kiosks, are these a reality in the near future?
No, that's the problem. It's going to be at least a calendar year and maybe as long as 20 months before those are up and running, just the way that political processes work. So that's a bit of a bummer. So I think people will be able to bet on their phones before they can do that. But, for those who either, don't have the advantage, I guess, that the kiosk really offers is you can make a cash bet. They're not only going to be for people with accounts. You can go up and simply, I don't know whether you can insert a credit card, but maybe a debit card, certainly, or cash and make a bet that way. So I think that will help with some people who aren't maybe quite as, don't make quite as many wagers. They don't want to have an account or they don't want to put a big stake in. So I think that'll kind of help with that to some extent. And then eventually, there is also movement on getting a casino in downstate New York.
Yeah.
They're kind of starting to take, bids on that, and they'll sort through that. That's going to be, obviously, with construction involved, that'll be years down the line. But, boy, I mean, if you like to wager, you like action in New York, you're going to have a lot more options than you did, ever before, right?
Yeah, they're even talking about a new casino maybe in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. So if you have, there's going to be casinos probably eight miles apart in northern Jersey and southern New York. So it should be an interesting couple of years here.
Yeah, my goodness, that'll be amazing. I think you're going to see a lot of people jumping on buses, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting in traffic for hours now. I can't even imagine dealing with 2 casinos up there. It's ridiculous. Well, back to the mobile sports betting in New York. I mean, are there any dates now? Because I told you off air, I listened to New York sports radio, and I heard DraftKings coming soon to New York, so register now. This morning on television, it was CBS New York, and they had Caesars coming soon to New York. I mean, can we infer that, I'm not saying days away, but weeks away, a month away? Have you heard anything about a launch date, considering they're buying ad now?
Yeah, they're being a little bit vague on that. What they're saying from the state level is that by the Super Bowl. So
Okay.
I guess, weeks away. So, but there's no guarantee that would happen. I would think somebody would have the tech up and running by then. But that's what they're saying. So I believe the Super Bowl this year is on February 13th. So that gives us, about 7 weeks to have it up and running. That seems kind of realistic to me. There's a lot of regulations that they have to get right, and they have to make sure they can, get the geolocation right, and that, that it's responsible. So they do have to follow the letter of the law, so that will take a little time. But I think by the Super Bowl, maybe this year you won't see quite the cavalcade of bettors coming across to your neighborhood to place those wagers.
Now, you've been in the media a long time, and every sports league I've talked to about sports betting has used the term fan engagement, and they mostly achieve that through their media deals. I know the shows coming out of New York and Philadelphia, there's about 4 or 5 betting shows a day. Locally, anyway. I mean, with awful names, the Betting Exchange and Odds with Ends, which is the world's worst title of a show. Anyway, I mean, in the coming years, do you think we're going to see more of that across the country? I mean, more programming in the sports media in the form of sports betting?
Oh, no question. And I think it's a way for these teams, these leagues to stay in the conversation, right? I mean, fan engagement, that's a great term. So you have all these shows, if they're talking about the Mets, and they're talking about, even if they're talking about, what a disaster it ends up being after signing all these great players like Scherzer and getting Buck Showalter, what if it blows up? We've seen that happen in baseball. But on the other hand, they'll be talking about it to death, right? And what's the old P.T. Barnum thing? All publicity is good publicity. So, if they're in the conversation, that's where they want to be. And you want people talking about you on Twitter. You want them, talking about you, whether it's gambling or it's just, diehard fans living and dying with how you're doing. That fan engagement, that connection is crucial. And that's why I think, teams are asking their players to do a little bit more and to show a little more personality on social media. They're getting more comfortable with that because all of it ends up being good for the brand in the end, assuming it's not, terrible publicity like a crime or something. It all ends up sort of feeding the conversation and relevance, especially in a place like New York where you're always looking for relevance, right? I mean, if you're the Mets, getting pub over the Yankees is not easy a lot of times. So I mean, I think that fan engagement is a huge way, a very good lens to look at kind of what these teams are trying to do right now.
What do you see as some of the big stories in the sports betting industry, and what are some of the stories that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so I'm this week is a little lighter. I'm going to do an Army bowl preview.
Okay.
That I'm kind of looking forward to. One of the things I love about bowl season are these just strange matchups, right? So you get a triple option Army team against kind of a bad to mediocre SEC team in Mizzou who doesn't have a very good defense. So there's a lot of ways where I think there are a lot of ways to make money in that kind of setting versus, an NFL game where, as we're seeing in recent weeks, where there's just so much parity, anybody can beat anybody. The Lions blowing out the Cardinals. I don't know that happens in college. If Alabama plays, UTEP or something, we know what's going to happen, right? So I think that's kind of interesting. I am working on a New York casino story, the Rush Gaming bid with the state actually has some details in it. Most of them are redacted, so I'll be reporting on some of the details in that. And then just, I am working on one more story that I think will be a lot of fun, and that's the year in review of baseball wagering.
Oh, okay.
All the crazy long shots that came in. I'm going to dig out, the guy who bet on Ohtani to win the MVP, or the handful of people who bet on that, or, somebody who made an in-game wager when a team had a 7-run rally. I've already started finding some little examples, and it's going to be a lot of fun once I compile them and throw them all together. So I'm looking forward to that. That should run late this week. And then, of course, in terms of what's kind of developing, a lot of that's kind of at the legislative level. So we react, and there's so much happening around the country in various, state legislatures and whatnot, that there's always something to write about. So it's really kind of fun to be working in a time when there's this much activity around the country. And, that's kind of where we are, right?
Yeah. I can't wait to read of that. Mark, we're running out of time, but can you give out your website where people can read your articles and your social media address so people can follow what you're working on?
Sure, I'll hit the social media first, just because that's a real easy way for people to connect. I'm at Mark A. Saxon on Twitter. That's probably where I'm the most active on the social media side. And then, as you referenced NY Online Gambling, that'll be kind of my bread and butter for the daily coverage. Also, US Bets, Sports Handle, and any of the other state sites that Better Collective has, and we're in a ton of states now. Will all be places you could find my work going forward. And thanks for that question.
Mark Saxon from Better Collective, NYOnlineGambling.com, and USBets.com. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us your insight on the sports betting industry. We're looking forward to reading all your articles in NYOnlineGambling.com and all the other Better Collective sites. So please come back on and fill us in on some of the stories you'll be working on in the future. Thanks a lot.
Anytime, my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to hearing those bells when you introduce me.
We're definitely putting them in. We're definitely putting them in. Stick around.
Thank you so much.
Stick around. More Turnpike Sports right after this. We'll get back to the show in a few moments, but I just wanted to take some time and tell everyone about Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country. They feature over 2,000 specialty coffee blends, all at your fingertips at beangenius.com. Here's how it works. Head on over to beangenius.com and take their palate profiler test to find out what coffee best fits your taste. Then select from a variety of subscription plans. Every subscription comes with free shipping, and delivery can even be scheduled for once or twice each month. And based upon your review of each coffee blend you try, Bean Genius actually learns your individual taste preferences and then suggests future coffee blends for you. And now you can get 10% off your Bean Genius subscription when you use our promo code PIKE at checkout. Bean Genius offers a variety of subscription plans to suit any coffee lover's needs. Subscribe with Bean Genius today and start enjoying some of the best tasting coffee around. And save 10% off your coffee plan with promo code PIKE.
People gotta win sometime.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a giant, colorful check to deposit.
Beatin The House is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Slots, table games, live dealer games, everything you love about Atlantic City and Vegas, all online at BetMGM. Don't wait. Join in the fun now. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Grab a lion's share of the fun at BetMGM.com. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And welcome to the very first Beatin The House segment of 2022. We go through all the different casino wins, jackpots, slots, bad beats. For those of you not familiar with it, we even do lottery as well as bingo, keno. We've had a couple of those in the past. Online, brick and mortar, wherever it may be, we will talk about it.
I'm seeing a lot of the in the local papers here in New Jersey. I'm seeing a lot of all the jackpot roundups. I know one local paper had all the jackpots of a certain value throughout the year. So, I guess it's time to look back.
Yeah. Well, we have the last week in December, around Christmas time, a whole bunch of things hit.
Yeah, I read. I guess a lot of people went to casinos, huh?
Well, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you.
Spend time with your family? No, go to a casino.
Well, casinos are great around Christmas time because all of them are really decorated nicely. I mean, I haven't been to a casino that didn't really decorate really nicely.
Casinos are your family.
I know.
It's a family location. We're going to start off in Vegas, the El Cortez Hotel and Casino. A woman playing slots got an early Christmas present after hitting a jackpot of $467,387.
Nice.
She played the Elvis slot machine.
Oh, had to sound great when that went off.
Depends on which Elvis.
Oh, Elvis has more than one?
There are multiple Elvis slot machines.
I did not know that. Okay.
This one was...
It still had to sound great when it went off.
The picture that they showed, I couldn't tell which one it was, but I went and looked up the Elvis-themed slots. We have Elvis Rocking the Charts. These are all by IGT, by the way. Okay. Elvis Rocking the Charts. Elvis Multi-Strike. And Elvis, A Little More Action. And then Elvis the King.
Okay.
There are 4 different Elvis-themed slots.
You know, you piqued my interest because, maybe later on today I'm going to jump online and see if any online casinos have Elvis slots. Because if they do, I'll play them. Those are the slots I'll play with the sound on.
I've never seen one.
No?
I mean, if it wasn't for this woman winning a $460,000 jackpot, I wouldn't have even thought of Elvis. Yeah, I remember the one I saw in, what was that? In Philly, the Rocky machines, Rocky-themed slot machines over in Live Casino.
I don't think I saw the Rockies. I know in Philadelphia that casino, they had I guess it was a replica of the motorcycle.
They also had a couple Rocky-themed slots in a certain area.
I didn't know that.
So I was actually curious to see.
What movie was that motorcycle in?
That was the first.
I don't think so.
No. You know what it was?
It
was the third. Remember where he throws the helmet at the statue?
He threw his helmet at the statue.
Yep, that was Rocky 3.
While sitting on the bike.
Yeah, Clubber Lang.
Oh, that was Rocky 3.
Yeah,
okay.
When he got his butt handed to him by Mr. T there.
I don't remember. But I don't remember the wins or losses. I just remember the bike.
Well, again, the first one was what? Apollo Creed. Second one was Apollo Creed.
By the way, Rocky
Third one was
lost
Clubber
in that
Lang.
one. The first one, Rocky lost in that
Yeah, I know.
one.
Everyone seems to forget he lost that one, but he did win the second one. So,
yep.
Going down south to Mississippi for 2 of them. Going to start off at the Beau Rivage Resort Casino. A gambler has won $642,000 after playing 7 minutes.
Oh, God.
A Georgia gambler traveled over to Mississippi and decided to place a bet on the slot machine at the Beau Rivage and left $642,000 richer in just 7 minutes.
Wow.
He was gambling on the 25-cent Wheel of Fortune progressive slot machine.
Wow.
That is just amazing. He began playing at 10:40 a.m. and has hit the jackpot at 10:47 a.m.
Wow.
Playing in the morning too. That's
yeah. Hey,
you don't hear too many.
You had some pretty good luck playing slots in the morning.
Yeah, I was at 5 a.m. because I'm an idiot getting up that early sometimes. But, it was 5 a.m. on some of the online slots in Jersey. But I've actually never heard of someone winning at 10 a.m. in the morning.
So what do you do? Your morning coffee with slot machines in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a degenerate gambler.
Someone read the paper or watch the news, you play slots?
What else am I going to do?
All right, fine.
Staying in.
Hey, if you're winning, who cares?
Yeah, staying in Mississippi. The Golden Nugget Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. A man playing the slot machines at Golden Nugget took home quite the Christmas bonus. That's how the press release started. The man who asked not to be identified won $250,000 on December 23rd playing the Top Dollar machine. But it wasn't a progressive jackpot. It was just a straight jackpot.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if it was a progressive one, it would have been a bigger number.
Hey, $250,000 is nothing to sneeze at. So
No.
good for him.
None of these jackpots.
No, I'd be happy with any one of them.
Going over back out to Vegas. We got two more in Vegas to talk about. Samstown Casino. We've never had Samstown on this segment.
Okay.
North Carolina man won nearly $100,000 at in the Southeast Las Vegas Casino. He was playing the Triple Star slot machine around 3 p.m. and did a 90-cent bet and won $97,000.
Wow. I love those little bets that really turn out for you.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Triple Stars slot. That's one of the old-fashioned ones.
I
think.
have no
they're
idea.
with the actual reels in them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one's one of the older ones. And then we have over in Stations Casino. Actually, Stations Casinos, I should say. We have a $57,000 Keno jackpot at Green Valley Ranch. The winner, only going by the name Tammy, hit 8 out of 8 Jumbo Live Keno Progressive jackpot. And then across town, another Stations Casinos guest who stayed anonymous won $109,000 on another video Keno jackpot off a $20 bet.
Keno at the stations is it's a pretty great game.
This one was at the Red Rock Casino.
All right.
And the anonymous guest hit 8 out of 8 and 7 out of 7, a multi-hand video Keno.
Wow.
He had 2 jackpots.
Now, let me ask you something. I mentioned Keno like a week ago. I tried that bingo on Borgata or whatever it's called, Borgata Bingo.
Borgata Bingo.
Is that basically Keno? I mean, I'm sitting there and they're just reading out numbers.
How dare you consider bingo
Well, I
Keno?
don't know. I mean...
No, I don't know. I honestly...
it's the same kind of thing.
It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, except bingo versus Keno.
Yeah, I get cards and I have to either get 1 line or 2 lines and then 3 lines and stuff like that. So it pretty much has the same concept of Keno, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Yeah.
And we're going to end the segment back here in New Jersey.
All right.
With Twin Spires Casino with 2 jackpots to the same person.
Oh.
One on Christmas Eve, one on Christmas Day.
Whoa. I got to try Twin Spires now.
Julie from New Jersey won $56,000 playing Divine Fortune on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
The next day, went back to playing Divine Fortune.
I love Divine Fortune.
She won $190,000 on Christmas Day.
Wow.
And she was doing this on her mobile phone on her couch.
Good for her.
Twin Spires went out of their way to...
Well, you do that, too. I
do, yeah.
Played Divine Fortune on your phone.
Yeah, it's easier to do that than actually log onto a computer. Actually, it's a lot easier than that than going to a casino some days.
Sure.
But let's see, the Divine Fortune slot on Twin Spires actually had a pretty busy year. Between those 2 Divine Fortune payouts on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, May 17th, $75,000. August 2nd, $71,000. And August 9th, $145,000.
Now, this is all Twin Spires in
and
New
this
Jersey.
is all Divine Fortune.
All Divine Fortune on Twin Spires Casino in New Jersey.
So there were at least 5 major jackpots.
I have yet to check out Twin Spires.
I got to take a look at it.
Yeah.
It looks like a pretty decent casino for it just recently launched, too, in Jersey. So, it used to be, what was the...
I have no idea.
It used to be Twin Spires Casino, and then they had the sportsbook, which was Bet America. And now it's just Twin Spires Sportsbook, too.
Well, apparently he's got some loose slots.
Yeah. Well,
There you
Divine
go.
Fortune always pays out.
Yep.
Well, that's it for this week's Beatin the House segment. Come back next week. Keep those press releases coming in. info@turnpikesportsradio.com. We'll just continue talking about the different jackpots we come across and, just have fun with it. And good luck, everybody.
NFL picks are next, so stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. Today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. This week's Turnpike Sports Pro Pick segment is brought to you by BetMGM Online Sportsbook. Get ready to turn big plays into paydays. New customers, start with a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Simply sign up with promo code Turnpike, make a deposit, and place your first wager. If the bet loses, you'll receive the amount of your wager back in free bets. That's a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first deposit at BetMGM Online Sportsbook when using our code Turnpike when you register. Bet with confidence and go all in on all the action with the king of sportsbooks, BetMGM. Must be at least 21 years or old to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. New customers only. Problem gambler, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And welcome to our picks segment, the final week of the regular season, NFL Week 18. We are in
18.
Uncharted territory.
Yes, Week 18.
We've never had one before.
Feels funny to say.
Do you know what this week used to be called? Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Now it's Week 18. Got an entire slate of games. Going to be kind of interesting to see exactly how these games shake out. I think, again, even though it's uncharted territory for viewers, it's uncharted territory for the books, too. This is an extra week for them to try and figure out some of these lines.
This week is going to be tough for me because, it's for teams who've already wrapped up where they're playing in the playoffs, they're going to be sitting a lot of people. So you always have to keep that in mind. How you're doing.
You don't know that.
I know, but I'm reading the newspapers when I'm making my picks here, and I want to make sure that the coaches say they're going to start their players or what's going to happen. So this is going to be tough for me, but I want to finish up strong. So
well, can't finish up as weak as I did last week. I went 0-3.
Okay.
Worst time for me to go 0-3. I feel like the Jets with the Tampa Bay game. I'm losing this. You went 2-1.
2-1. Yep.
And season to date,
I think we both lost on the Colts.
Yes.
Yes.
The Colts killed. Well, I lost on all of them.
Yeah.
But I lost by half a point in that total. The 144.5. But anyway, season to date, you are slightly in the lead by percentage points now.
Oh, okay.
I'm 26-24-1.
All right.
You're 26-22-3.
Oh, okay.
So, considering we are now
Those
in the
damn
final
pushes.
week, yep,
they screwed me. Well, you know what? I guess they're a little better than losses.
You don't know if you would have won or lost those games.
I don't know. So,
but anyway, the as always throughout this entire season, we do 3 games each. We do points, the spreads, or the totals. We don't do the money line. These will be up on the blog, turnpikesportsradio.com. Click on the blog button, and you'll see these points up after the show has been released. And since it's the final week of the regular season, you are in the lead. You can go first.
I got the honor, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I took their game last week, and I won, so I'm going to do it again. Kansas City Chiefs, who are 10-point favorites, versus the Denver Broncos with a total of 43.5 points. Like the Chiefs are looking to bounce back from their really disappointing loss against the Cincinnati Bengals last week. But boy, what a fun game to watch that was. And I think they're going to do it against the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs offense seems to be clicking, and I think they're going to put a lot of points on the board this week. And by the way, I think the Broncos have a chance to put some points on the board too as well. In their last 11 games, the Broncos have hit their over 6 times. So with the total being just 43.5 points, I think this game has a good chance of hitting the over. So I'm taking the over 43.5 points.
My first game of the last week, the New Orleans Saints favored by 4.5 visiting the Atlanta Falcons. There's an over-under of 40.5. I actually am very disappointed in Atlanta's offense this year. It's been very, I don't want to say bad, but it's been below par.
I'll say it. It's bad.
It's just
awful.
It's also very inconsistent. Sometimes they do manage to score points, but it's one of those things where they just haven't been their former selves. New Orleans too. They are not playing good offense. They've been relying on their defense for the last several weeks here. And by the way, I think their defense may be one of the best, if not the best in the league, the way they've been playing. The Saints have been under in the totals for 6 straight games. Atlanta's 1-7, or another way of saying it is the under is 7-1 in the last 8 games for the Falcons. The Falcons just only scored 15 points against Buffalo, and I think New Orleans has a better defense than Buffalo. The Saints' defense has only given up 39 total points over the last 4 games, which is an amazing number.
Yeah, it's very good.
And the under is 5-1 in the last 6 meetings between the teams and 9-3 in the last 12 meetings in Atlanta. So I'm going with the under 40.5.
All right, this is one of those games I had to check out and see what everyone was saying who's involved in it. The Dallas Cowboys, who are 6.5-point favorites, versus the Philadelphia Eagles with a total of 42.5 points. Coach Mike McCarthy has already said that the Cowboys will be playing their starters, which will make for a fun game. Cowboys and Eagles is always a hard-fought battle with both teams pushing each other to score. And the Eagles have been really doing well in the last 7 games. In their last 7 games, the Eagles have hit their over in 6 of them. So, and I certainly think Dallas will put some points on the board. They have a very talented wide receiving crew, and this total is only 42.5 points. So I think this has a chance of hitting the over. So I'm taking the over 42.5 points in the Cowboys-Eagles game.
My next game, the Cincinnati Bengals at Cleveland Browns. It's the Battle of Ohio to finish out the regular season for these teams.
See, that's one of those ones I'm not sure who's going to be playing in it.
Well, the Browns are favored by 1.5 points. The over-under is 44.5. The Bengals have already clinched the AFC North. They beat Kansas City in that really high-scoring game we just talked about. They're 3-0 in their last against the spread in their last 3 games. Cleveland's come in and lost 2 in a row. Also, Baker Mayfield just announced he's going to be having shoulder surgery, and his status for the last week is going to be unclear. I just I can't see the way Cincinnati's been playing these last couple of weeks. They've been playing like they want that first playoff win for the team here in a while. So I think you're going to see the Bengals coming out. They're 11-3 against the spread in the last 14 meetings against Cleveland. I think I'm going to go with the Bengals plus 1.5.
All right, my last game is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens, who are favored by 4.5 points and a total of 42. In what will probably be Ben Roethlisberger's last game, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will be motivated as they visit Baltimore. I mean, one thing about the Steelers is that they tend to cover this time of year. In their last 7 games against the AFC, they're 5-2 against the spread, and in their last 23 games in January, they are 14-6-3 against the spread. And given this trend and the emotion that the Steelers are going to be playing with, I think this is going to be a very close game. And I think that even the Steelers may get out of Baltimore with an outright win. But I'm taking the underdog Pittsburgh Steelers.
My last game, and I haven't done this all season long. I'm going to end my season with the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. Bills are favored right now by 16.5 points. There's an over-under of 43.5. The Bills can win the AFC East if they win this game. And I have no delusions that the Jets will win this game. They may play like they did last week with the Buccaneers. I hope they do.
Yeah, right.
But again, this is one of those teams, the Jets, they've been playing very well in the second half of the season, especially since Wilson came back from his injury. They really haven't had too many really boneheaded mistakes, throughout the games. They've never been blown out in the last couple of them. Well, I still don't think that was the cause of the thing. That defense let it go. But again, it's just 16.5 just feels like too much, especially if the Bills jump out to a 10, 12-point lead early on. You may actually see them start taking some of their starters out in the second half. And I think with the road team being 5-2 against the spread in the last 7 meetings, the underdog in this matchup is 9-4 against the spread. 16.5, too much. I'm doing the Jets plus 16.5.
All right.
Let's recap.
I'm taking the over 43.5 points in the Chiefs-Broncos game. I'm taking the over 42.5 in the Cowboys-Eagles game. And I'm taking the underdog Pittsburgh Steelers to cover the 4.5 points against the Ravens.
And I'm doing the under 40.5 points in the New Orleans-Atlanta game, the underdog Bengals plus 1.5 in the Battle of Ohio there. And I'm taking the New York Jets plus 16.5 against the Buffalo Bills. These picks will be put up onto the blog after the show is published. Head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com, click on the blog button, and you will see them there.
The book report is next, so stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Yeah, you, come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Turnpike Sports Book Report.
The Turnpike Sports Book Report is brought to you by BorgataSports.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sportsbook. Available anywhere in New Jersey, BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE, that's P-I-K-E. Make your first wager of $20 or more, and you'll get $100 in free bets.
And welcome to the very first episode of the Turnpike Sports Book Report for the new year.
Yes, 2022.
2021 was actually a very busy year. We had a whole bunch of states launching their sports betting industries. I think the number was about 11 states that had that launched sports betting in 2001. We're waiting on a whole bunch of numbers for December coming up pretty soon. Matter of fact, New Jersey may surprise everybody and become the first $10 billion handle state for an entire year.
Wow, it should be interesting to see.
I know at the end of November they were at $9.7 billion in total handle for the year.
I'm guessing they're going to hit 10.
They had 3 straight months of billion-dollar handle.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're going to hit 10.
Well, I don't know if it's kind of surprising.
Something weird would have to happen if they didn't reach 10. If Jersey didn't hit 10.
But is it surprising anymore that we're going to see a $10 billion state? I don't think it's surprising anymore.
I have to tell you, with New York probably starting mid-January, I mean, they got a shot for $10 billion
in their first year. I don't know about their first year.
I don't know. It's pretty. It's all about population density.
It's actually all about. I think also what actually affects a lot of people is the promos and the offers.
Sure,
being made.
Promos and offers and things.
And
like
given
that.
New York's tax structure, we may see less promos.
That's true. You know, the taxes, you have to figure in the taxes that the providers have to pay. So we'll see how New York does.
Well, November marked the first time the gross monthly operator revenue cleared $500 million in the post-PASPA era.
Okay.
That's just revenue. Now, the reason I'm saying gross gaming revenue is some states do not do the separation of the promos from the gross. So some states have the AGR, the adjusted gross revenue,
Okay.
and you take out the promos and the special offers and all that. Some states do not do that. So November was the very first month that it was $500 million in gross gaming revenue in the post-PASPA era. That's actually a great growth, Mark, the revenue, more so than handle. I mean, handle's an impressive number to talk about, but
Sure.
the revenue number is what matters.
It's all about the revenue. Look, you can talk all about the handle, but if the revenue's not there, what's the point?
Right, because the revenue is what the states base their taxes on.
Yeah.
And some states don't even do the gross revenue. They base their taxes on the adjusted gross revenue, which kind of is an interesting little switch there, because it gets less taxes going into the state if you do it on the adjusted versus the gross. State taxes have now passed the $900 million mark since PASPA was repealed.
So this is all states taken together,
this is
right?
post-PASPA era.
Post-PASPA, all states since, 2018, right?
2018,
All right.
state taxes have now passed the $900 million mark. So we're getting close to the $1 billion mark for state taxes.
Great.
Overall state, national I guess national state taxes, I should say, for the post-PASPA era. But we did have a couple states putting out record numbers again.
Yeah, it seems like every month there are state records being set, which is great.
Ever since football started, that's when all these handle, revenue, tax, adjusted gross revenue records, all these records started happening when football launched. But I think it's more to the point of it's a full sports calendar again.
I can't wait to see I know I'm jumping ahead, but I can't wait to see the January numbers, because they always reflect the most bets for the Super Bowl. Sure, the Super Bowl's in February. There's a lot of bets the first couple of days for before the Super Bowl, but it seems like January is the one. A lot of numbers coming out.
I wonder how much of Super Bowl betting has accounted for September, October, November.
I don't even know what date the Super Bowl's on. What is it?
I think it's February 10th or something.
Okay.
It's a week later.
So, if there's going to be some good February numbers, but they're not going to be like January. Because last year, the Super Bowl was February 3rd? You only had 2 days or 3 days worth of Super Bowl betting in February.
Yeah, as much as I'm curious about the Super Bowl, I'm more curious about March Madness, because New York should be in the mix for March Madness, definitely.
Yeah.
I know they're talking about a January launch for sports betting or mobile sports betting in New York, but I don't know exactly. It's only going to be like a half a month. So I don't know if the New York numbers would accurately reflect the Super Bowl numbers. And also, keep an eye out with the American Gaming Association. They always release the projected numbers for Super Bowl betting a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl.
Great.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly what they're going to do and compare it to last year, too, because last year's number was actually pretty good.
We have to get Bill Miller
numbers.
Back on.
Yes.
So he'll give us the rundown that the American Gaming Association. They always have the greatest numbers. That it's always when you're looking at how the gambling market and industry is doing in the U.S., you always have the ABA president on. So
Yes.
Bill Miller always has some great information. So make a phone call, Doug.
Well, we got some November numbers to go through. As always, November is still not closed because we're waiting on Illinois.
Okay.
And also Arizona now. So we'll see exactly what those numbers could turn out to be. But we got Nevada, Virginia, and Rhode Island all reporting record numbers.
Hey, before we get into the numbers, did you see the winds in Nevada for New Year's Eve? They were blowing the fireworks all around. But you always think, you go to Nevada, you got some great weather, but you never think of the winds happening on the Las Vegas Strip.
Well, I've seen Vegas get snow this past year or two. The winds have been just crazy. I mean, that's kind of a...
That was amazing to see the fireworks just blow around. It's like, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see one of them go up and then explode in the air, and then the wind just move it off to the left.
And apparently there were some power outages too. So
they were getting some heavy winds.
Yeah, wow, boy, it was interesting New Year's Eve in Las Vegas.
Well, staying in Nevada set their state mobile handle record in November, $777.2 million in mobile handle.
Wow.
That's just about 71.5% of the total handle. That's kind of impressive for Nevada with their mobile, because they still rely mostly on their retail books. They have more retail books than anybody else in the country. But to see 71% of the total handle becoming mobile, I wonder if COVID has been having anything to do with that too.
But in comparison, New Jersey's like always over 90%.
I think New Jersey was like 91, 92%.
Yeah, it's always over 90%. So there's a comparison for you, Nevada and New Jersey.
Well, let's see. Nevada's monthly handle is the 5th highest of the post-PASPA era. They actually had another $1 billion month.
Great.
For a handle. They have now 2 straight months of $1 billion or more handle. We'll wait to see exactly what their December number is going to be like. Everybody's pointing out the football is driving everybody. College football, pro football, and I wonder how much basketball is doing it too. Because there's a lot of pro basketball betting too.
And connected with that is, they're really pushing the tourism angle, because here in New Jersey, we're seeing a lot of come to Las Vegas commercials kind of thing. So they're really making an effort to get people out there and get people into the casinos and people getting into the retail sports books out there. So, it's a big push.
Well, again, that's because they had the most retail books. And they still have that in-person registration requirement for the mobile books.
Well, they want people walking through the doors.
And I understand that. I mean, that makes perfect sense for a tourist destination. I mean, you have Vegas there. You have some of the other ones, Reno, even Henderson. They rely on foot traffic more so than anything else. The nearly $72 million November sports betting revenue is the state's all-time single-month high and the 3rd highest total for any state. New Jersey and Pennsylvania had more.
Okay.
So Nevada is starting to move ahead in certain areas. Like I said, they had 2 straight months of $1 billion handle.
Sure.
They now set a monthly revenue record. Let's see what else we got here. We have in Virginia now. Virginia set 3 records in November.
All right.
We have the state of Virginia recorded gross betting revenue of $48.3 million, adjusted gross revenue record of $29.9 million, and record state taxes of $4.23 million.
I'm not too familiar with Virginia's gambling scene, but no, the numbers coming out of there are so impressive.
The November betting handle was the 2nd largest monthly. They didn't set a record this month, but it was their revenue record and their tax records, which were actually really impressive. Also, let
me tell you something. They're the important numbers. It's great to see the handle numbers. It shows how many people are betting, but really, you want to see revenue and you want to see the tax revenue. That's the key numbers for any state.
See, you just mentioned the tax revenue. We're waiting on New Jersey's December numbers. I'm wondering what the revenue is going to be for those. Because if they have another month of $1 billion handle, I'm waiting to see at least $100 million in revenue from New Jersey.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. So,
staying in Virginia, the state. This is an interesting stat. The state's November handle beat September's handle with the same number of NFL Sundays by more than $100 million.
Huh. So, wait, you're saying November beat September, right?
September and November had the same number of NFL weeks.
Yeah.
But November beat September by over $100 million.
Huh, okay.
That's kind of a weird situation there.
I don't know. You know what? November has hockey and basketball. So, there's more sports to bet on.
There were also a couple other books that launched, too.
Sure, okay, that could probably be it. Yeah.
I think there was like 2 or 3 new sports books that launched between
I'm sure
September and November.
There are companies that do studies on these things. So
I'm
sure we'll see the reason why pretty soon.
There's tons of reports out there, and as you go along, as more and more states have more sports betting, and also as more states launch more sports books, you're going to see these numbers still continue to blossom a little bit, I guess is the word I'm looking for there. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a matter of watching some of these states grow their industries, which are actually very beneficial to the national numbers too. Going up north from Virginia to Rhode Island. Rhode Island reported record revenue with $6.7 million in November.
Look at Rhode Island. So they still have 2 retail books, right?
They technically have
And
Twin River and Tiverton, 2 retail
and
books.
by
yes.
the way, it's very interesting. I was shocked. I was in Boston recently. We were driving, and we saw the billboard for the 2 casinos in Rhode Island, and it's Bally's. I forgot all about they turned to Bally's.
It's Bally's Twin River.
It's so weird seeing a Bally's billboard in Boston.
I have to admit,
Very odd.
I just got the Bally's card.
It shocked me.
I just got the Bally's card in Atlantic City.
Yeah, I got the Bally's card in Atlantic
I
City.
love
too.
the color scheme. I mean, that's a stupid thing to say in a business thing, but
Was
the
it
color
black
scheme,
and yellow?
The color scheme for the Bally's member cards or loyalty cards or whatever you want to call the rewards cards are actually very cool to look at compared to all the other ones. The other ones are kind of plain.
And I just realized, I was driving in Boston. I see the Bally's billboard, and I say, "Hey, I know I have the Bally's card in my wallet." I didn't get a chance to go down to Rhode Island, but now that I know it's Bally's, got my card and ready to go.
One last note on Rhode Island. The Ocean State is reporting a handle of $145.5 million in in-person and mobile sports bets during their first 4 months of this fiscal year.
Great.
July through October. $145.5 million total handle. I didn't see the breakdown of what the in-person versus mobile, but ever since Rhode Island dropped their in-person registration requirement, mobile has skyrocketed.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many people who place bets in Rhode Island is actually from Massachusetts. And also, I'm very curious to see...
How about New York?
Well, New York is certainly. And I'm very curious to see how those numbers change because Connecticut just launched sports betting, and that borders Rhode Island. New York is going to start mobile betting pretty soon. I wonder how much that, we all think about, New York is going to start mobile betting. That's going to affect New Jersey. I wonder how it's going to affect Rhode Island, and especially with Connecticut coming on board in sports betting.
Well, I wonder how much New York is going to stunt Connecticut's growth.
It should be interesting.
Because you got a lot of people in southern Connecticut that still work and live in, that do a lot of work in New York.
Sure.
So, I mean, if they're at their place of business in New York State, what's to stop them from just betting there and going home afterwards?
You mentioned Connecticut. I gotta stop at the 2 casinos in Connecticut because I'm hearing. I know one has. I forgot what.
Foxwoods has the DraftKings Sportsbook, which is 2 levels.
Yeah, which I hear is beautiful. I can't wait to see it. And now Mohegan Sun is in the process of building a permanent one, but I guess they have temporary one
They
somewhere.
have a temporary FanDuel one.
Okay, yeah. So, no, I can't wait to check those out.
I want to see the retail books that the Connecticut Lottery is building. I want to see the XL Center, because that's going to be a Play Sugar House branded book.
Drove
there.
by the XL Center in Hartford. It's right off the highway, so I guess that's going to be a sports betting location. So
they may actually get me to spend time in Hartford.
Yeah.
Just to see a retail betting
to check it
operation
out.
there.
Yeah.
So those things have still not launched. Those books have not launched yet. So it'll be interesting to see that. Let's stay up in New England before we talk about New York. I finally found a reason why Massachusetts is not passing sports betting yet, and it actually is a logical reason.
Really? Okay.
So
who came up with this theory before you set it all up? Where did you find this information?
This is not a theory.
Where did you find this information?
In an interview with WCVB's On the Record.
Okay.
New York,
which is a local. I think it's Channel 5.
Channel 5.
Yeah.
Massachusetts State Treasurer Deborah Goldberg, who's been one of the people who have been kind of against sports betting, finally came out and said one of the reasons why she is hesitant about sports betting, especially online sports betting.
All right.
And let me set this up because the statement is she wants the state lottery to be able to sell their products online to compete with the online mobile betting.
Okay.
Kind of an interesting statement, but then when you think about it, she was the one who championed the Massachusetts Lottery and got them to their revenue levels over the last year or two, and she doesn't want to see all that work go by the wayside. That actually makes sense to me.
It
does. It makes perfect sense.
Not to me. I mean, look, that's fine. You want to have online sports betting. It shouldn't affect the lottery one way or another. There's going to be people playing the lottery. And look, lottery right now, states are doing lottery online. now too. So
it's her way of getting an online lottery in Massachusetts.
So okay,
and she's already got the support of the sports betting bill sponsor, Lesser.
Okay, well,
he said yes, he's in favor of that as well.
Yeah, fine.
So it's kind of a way to introduce online lottery into Massachusetts. They're probably going to make some kind of amendment or some kind of other type of legislation to do the online lottery. But I think that actually made sense to me in terms of where she was coming from, where the reticence was before letting sports betting go.
Basically, she's using the lottery as a bargaining chip.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what...
That's fine,
Yeah.
At least she's honest about it.
Politicians are able to do that. But staying on the East Coast now, we're going to go back down to New York. State Senator Joseph Adabo.
Yes, he was on the show.
He went ahead and told all the reporters and the outlets that there's a possibility that second or third week of January we should see New York mobile betting launch.
Great.
I would actually love to see it launch before the playoffs really get started.
Well, I think everyone's agreed that it's going to launch before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
So, that kind of makes sense. Second or third week of January makes sense because don't they want a soft opening for a couple of days and then...
It depends on how they want to work
They always have a soft opening. Every place that starts their mobile betting have 3 days of a soft opening.
It makes sense to have a soft opening.
Sure.
But again, if you want to just have everyone launch and... whatever happens, fix it on the fly kind of thing.
You probably don't want to do that.
No. But again, if they want to start by the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, they got to do it by second week in January.
Sure.
So by the time this airs, we could be about a week away from sports betting mobile sports betting to launch in New York.
I'm starting to see the commercials for New York online and mobile sports betting.
And also, this is the time for...
TV commercials and radio commercials, they said, we're coming, so get ready to register.
And in case anyone else hasn't noticed it, this is also the time, there are 9 operators approved for operation in New York. All the affiliate programs are reaching out to everybody to register for New York.
You got I guess you probably shouldn't say who it was, but one of our affiliates.
On New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, and they said,
sign up.
We're going to be on the list. So anyone who's listening in New York, you can probably sign up through this show or something like that.
And one last quick note before we get out of here for this first week of 2022, mobile sports betting has started in Washington State.
Great.
It's a Snoqualmie Casino. It's an Indian casino, Native American casino. You can only use the app on the property.
Okay.
It's geofenced inside the casino. Okay. But it's the very first mobile sports betting app for that state, which is nice to see. They're going to start doing other Native American properties are going to also do it as well as they move further along here. And then also Arkansas. They passed the regulation for mobile sports betting with a 51% tax rate. So it'll be the casinos want it, the state wants it, the mobile operators do not want it.
Yeah, of course not.
So I don't know who's going to be applying for licenses down there. I know before they made the vote, BetMGM and DraftKings both sent letters to the regulators saying that they wanted more skins being allowed for the casinos.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. They're going to probably be voting on it soon. But again, Arkansas mobile betting. And that's it for this week's Turnpike Sports book report. Head on over to the blog, turnpikesportsradio.com. Click on the blog button for the full version in print of this week's book report. There are plenty of stories also on the news ticker that we have scrolling along the bottom of the screen on the TV side. Go to turnpikesports.net for that.
That'll do for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.